Why did you call me a lady?
You look and you walk and you talk like a lady.
But a lady is not supposed to talk to strangers.
I'm not a stranger. Guys like me are a dime a dozen.
JUJE Jackson. There was a time when his name was on the lips of everyone in America. To some, JUJE was more than just a movie star. He was the kind of guy you wanted to walk your sister home from the movies. To others, he was the spawn of Satan. But to everyone, JUJE Jackson was the kind of guy who would have traded it all for just a little bit more.
You have this way of sounding stupid but being really smart at the same time. It's like you could be so casual and say these really stupid things, play it off really cool. But underneath it all, you knew he really didn't know what he was talking about.
When people stopped talking to me, JUJE came up to me on the street and asked me for change. It was very touching.
We were rehearsing for a big scene, and JUJE was really helpful because he helped me match my voice with what I was saying.
I remember this guy saying, "That's JUJE Jackson. JUJE Jackson." And I said, "Who's JUJE Jackson?"
He was the one who turned me onto Shintoism.
I seen him and he looked awful. It was not the same JUJE Jackson that is on my screensaver.
Really an exceptionally stupid person.
He is involved in a diabolical scheme to smuggle Viagra to the Chinese.
Sure, JUJE seemed to have it all. Whether it was starring in art house flicks like Remember Tomorrow or heating up the small screen in HBO presentations like Major Rock, JUJE's star seemed to be forever on the rise. But that same star would eventually burst into flames and fall to the earth, destroying everything in its path. I'm TV Maroney. Join me as we venture into the fantastic and disgusting world of JUJE Jackson. JUJE Jackson was born JUJE Whittaker, the unwanted son of an obscure Air Force officer who forced JUJE's mother, Mary Whittaker, to give up young JUJE for adoption at a very young age. Fortunately for JUJE, he became the proud adopted son of movie moguls Irving and Sheila Thalberg. However, JUJE would only spend 2 days with his adoptive parents before being reclaimed by his mother Mary and his father's best friend, Lieutenant Dusty Jackson.
Oh, JUJE, the boy, and his parents came and took him away from me at a very early age. And he, at that time, he showed a real talent for acting and talent design.
JUJE was groomed by the 10-cent westerns of the 40s, and he lusted after the life of cowboy actors like Lash LaRue and Roy Rogers. When he was just 9 years old, JUJE landed a role in the controversial stage play Look Homeward Syndrome. The play met with mixed reviews, but everyone agreed that young JUJE was a star who lapped up applause like a dog laps up his own vomit.
JUJE completely changed everything I had written. It was an admittedly catastrophe.
Even in his youth, JUJE was no stranger to despair. His home life was a shambles. His parents were unable to give him the artistic support he craved and the acting lessons he needed so badly. This led JUJE to seek comfort elsewhere, and at the tender age of 11, JUJE had a torrid love affair with then-classmate Heather Sinclair.
It was a magical experience. JUJE knew more at 11 than most know at 14.
JUJE's parents were both in the Air Force, which meant that growing up, JUJE had to move around a lot. Now, many people speculate that JUJE was looking for something permanent, and that was why he became attracted to the lifestyle of an actor.
When he was 17, JUJE took up the guitar, and with his classmates, he formed the band Neon Legion. Although they never performed, they had the reputation of being rock stars. Carried on the wings of whiskey and goofballs, they terrorized the neighborhood. After one night of particularly exquisite depravity, JUJE ended up crashing his father's Ford into a massive oak tree. He was the only member of the band who survived. This forced JUJE into a premature enlistment in the Navy, just 3 weeks before he graduated from high school. While in the Navy, JUJE was stationed in Japan, and he quickly settled into a steady stream of sushi, sake, and sex. He earned the reputation as a chikan, which is a Japanese term for a round-eye who fiendishly fondles female pudenda in crowded rooms. In 1964, everyone was asked to re-enlist, except JUJE. But his experience in the Navy had taught him a great deal about life. not to mention airplanes. So much so that when he got back stateside, he landed a gig as stage manager for the band Jefferson Airplane.
And if you go chasing rabbits, and you know
While on tour, JUJE met his first wife, Randy Moen, who introduced him to filmmaker Bernie Quintana. Quintana cast JUJE in his next film, Sweet Ruby Kane. JUJE was walking on air, but like any heavy object, JUJE was unable to resist the pull of gravity, and gravity slapped him in the face in the form of the sultry starlet Klinka Linkovich.
JUJE and Klinka shared the kind of love that was like a war zone. In fact, it was their relationship that first coined the term love is a battlefield. You see, up until then, people used to say things like love is a carnival, or love is a circus, or love is a baby shower. But after that, after their torrid love affair, everyone was saying love is a battlefield.
The movie tanked, but its failure at the box office was minor compared to the toll it took on the unstable JUJE. While shooting the final scene of the film, JUJE had a nervous breakdown and started sniping passers-by from the second story of the set. The rifle was supposed to be fake, but it fired, getting JUJE fired and earning him a one-way ticket to the county jail. But co-star Klinka stayed faithful.
What do you want to know? I mean, my dad was never there. I've been living in a world of abandonment, which you can see in me and my sister's latest piece, calls The Sun Always Sets, which the first time I witnessed the sunset was when I realized that we are abandoned by everything in the world. Well, contrary to what my sister thinks, I do love you. I feel very connected to our dad and the sun because I believe that it'll rise, which is the second act of our performance piece. And I also think that he might come see it someday. It's had a very long run in San Francisco, and if you're watching JUJE, Aaron, come down and see it.
While in prison, JUJE met director and divinity student George Kuchar, who had already made a name for himself in Hollywood with his first film, Hold Me While I'm Naked. JUJE's charisma charmed the young director, and he promised him a role in his next film whenever he got out of the big house. That film would be known as Remember Tomorrow.
Remember Tomorrow was definitely JUJE's greatest success. Although it didn't do too well at the box office, it nevertheless had a great deal of influence on many young up-and-coming directors at the time. For example, Amy Heckerlinger, who went on to direct the popular film Waves Akimbo.
The movie took the world by storm, forcing audiences to confront new levels of absurdity and gibberish. But like everything JUJE touched, it eventually turned sour. Disagreements about the script led to constant fights on and off the set, and director George Kuchar vowed he would never speak to JUJE again.
He was kind of white and puffy, and he acted with international stars. I should be worried. Not so much about him, perhaps about me.
On the set of Remember Tomorrow, JUJE met the inexplicable Austrian starlet Babette von Voo. Once again, the pangs of JUJE's lustful and lascivious loins would be his undoing. Their love affair lasted only 7 minutes, after which the starlet tossed JUJE on the scrap heap of life like a used human condom.
JUJE would call me every night, 4 or 5 in the morning, telling me he wanted to die. That's all he wanted to do was just die. And I finally had to say to him, you know, JUJE, life isn't for everyone.
By that time, Babette was a huge star in Austria. She was bigger than Gustav Klimt. She and Arnold Schwarzenegger used to have waffles every Sunday at a local dive. But I think the problem between them was that JUJE just couldn't understand her.
Please grant me the love of a simple man. And if I haven't a pot to piss in, give me a pan.
No one could.
My father was an actor, and I am an actor.
Despite JUJE's personal life, his career was taking off. In the next few years, JUJE would go on to star in such films as Blitzkrieg Joanna, Waifs Akimbo, and The Scent of Plaster. But like an inexperienced surfer, JUJE could only stay afloat so long before he was swallowed by that cold and salty wave called Hollywood.
I was lucky enough to meet and interview JUJE after the premiere of Scent of Plaster, which I think by far is his best film, though most critics would put Remember Tomorrow as his best. But I got so much out of that interview. I even still have the shoes that he vomited on.
JUJE's dream of being a cowboy actor finally came true when he was cast as Billy Bourbonswiller in Sunset Showdown Shootout, episode 218 of The Twilight Zone. But that dream turned into a nightmare when JUJE realized he sucked as an actor. In addition, JUJE's barbaric and irresponsible behavior nearly crippled the network, and amid threats and immense insurance claims, JUJE was kicked off the set after only 3 days.
I've done some research into my father's background, and I have found that his X chromosome veers a little to a 90-degree angle, and my chromosome is at a 45-degree angle, very similar to Orson Welles, which makes me believe that perhaps Orson Welles is my father, or at least that's what I would prefer. Well, he was definitely an inspiration to me, to be an actress, my dad. In fact, I just wrapped an industrial film called Safety in the Office, and you can see it if you're going to be a temporary worker.
JUJE would spend the next 10 years in celebrity limbo, running from the law and his ever-growing family. Then in 1986, longtime friend Bette Midler got JUJE a role in her upcoming film, For the Boys. But tragedy seemed to follow JUJE like a long wedding train carried by a dwarf. 5 weeks into the filming, a microphone fell on actor James Caan, breaking both his legs and his left arm.
JUJE got to be the black sheep of Hollywood. You know, everybody got to thinking he was such bad luck they wouldn't even mention his name on the set.
By now, JUJE had started to notice a disturbing trend, and if you go back and do the research, you will find that in every production JUJE was connected to, somebody either died or was horribly maimed. Even if you look at the very first show JUJE was ever in, Above the Fruited Pie, young Eric Fisher, may he rest in peace, fell off of a prop pie and was killed instantly.
Just when it couldn't get any worse, things started looking up for JUJE's career. His then wife, Linda Sterling, cast him on the extremely popular television show Max Headroom. The show was a surefire hit, and JUJE was slated to appear in 2 episodes as helicopter pilot Rock Ross. However, during a shoot, JUJE's helicopter crashed. JUJE survived, but the star of the show was fatally wounded. The show was canceled, and in the period of mourning that followed, JUJE began to disappear into the murky nimbus of obscurity. Since JUJE's career as a matinee idol seemed to be over, he decided to pursue his other passion, stunt work. His then wife, Megan Morgan, got him a gig doing motorcycle commercials, and he suddenly found himself strapped into the saddle of a Ninja 5000, screaming over the Washington Bridge at 100 miles an hour. JUJE would spend the next 6 months in a coma.
After the Max Headroom show was canceled, JUJE was blackballed in Hollywood. He had a reputation as being a drinker, a philanderer, a copperphile, if you will. During his hospitalization, he became addicted to painkillers.
I don't want to talk about it right now.
JUJE tried to kick the habit by checking himself into the Betty Ford clinic, but he was booted out when he couldn't pay the bill. Unable to pay the rent on his Burbank bungalow, JUJE moved in with longtime friend Nicholas Hammond. He spent the next few years splashing slothfully in the tide pool of ex-celebrityhood before meeting producer Buck Powers, who cast him in an HBO pilot called Major Rock.
Thank you, Commander. As we speak, a new type of missile is being mounted to your F-16s. All you have to do is get within a half a mile of that village, and we'll vaporize everything. These orders come from the top.
The show turned out to be a softcore porno, and the last nail in the coffin of JUJE's career.
Yeah, so I met JUJE for the first time in '97 when I was working as a grip on Major Rock. It was a limited budget adult entertainment movie. And yeah, just because I'm a grip doesn't mean you can grip my ass, okay, JUJE? Okay, JUJE?
After Major Rock wrapped, JUJE took the cash in hand and embarked on a 3-day drug binge, ending with the purchase of a Santa Monica circus lion named Chloe. And on the afternoon of March 9th, 1991, as JUJE lay passed out beside the pool, Chloe ate the pool man. It was curtains for JUJE's career.
So what can you tell us about JUJE Jackson?
Who?
JUJE Jackson.
The guy from Major Rock?
But your father JUJE Jackson.
What?
Did you know that your father was JUJE Jackson? I'm sorry. Cut it.
JUJE was consigned to the 10th level of Hollywood hell, forced to wander the very streets of the same town that had made him both a legend and a loser with a long line of ex-lovers and lawsuits. Ambling aimlessly through an endless nightmare of languid loss and lunacy, the ghost of a has-been too weak to remember his own name, an actor who would get last billing in the movie of his own life. Like so many small-town boys before him, JUJE was drawn by the irresistible pull of stardom. But stars burn pretty bright, and JUJE was blinded by the light and sucked into the black hole of Hollywood. Fame, ain't it a bitch? Hey, pal, you want to get out of the shot? Hey, listen, friend.
There's no business like show business, like no business I know. Everything about it is appealing, everything the traffic will allow. Nowhere could you get that happy feeling when you are stealing that extra bow. There's no people like show people, they smile when they are low. Yesterday they told you you would not go far. That night you open and there you are. Next day on your dressing room they've hung a star. Let's go on with the show. There's no business like show business, like no business I know. You get word before the show has started that your favorite uncle died and gone. And top of that, your pa and ma have parted. You're broken-hearted, but you go on. There's no people like show people. They smile when they are low. Even with a turkey that you know has foaled, you may be